Nobody was supposed to find this. This is what people thought in ancient times when they buried a little boy face down. Slavery in the ancient world was not like we were told before. At the same time, scientists were able to extract DNA from ordinary building bricks. Watch this video until the end, you will love it. Hi friend, you're on the Kurtop channel. Panda in the tomb. The great Chinese Emperor Wan, who lived 2,200 years ago, passed away, and here's what's interesting. Near his last refuge, archaeologists discovered the remains of a giant panda and a tapir. Until that moment, scientists did not even suspect that tapirs could live in China during the reign of the emperor, and many other animals were found near the tomb, from mighty tigers to peacocks and golden-nosed monkeys. Many of them, unfortunately, are now endangered. What does this picture mean? We have a real ancient Egyptian relief here. It is older than you think, created somewhere in the 14th century BC. It is now in the famous Metropolitan Museum in New York. Look at those narrow palm columns. It is most likely a palace. In temples, the columns were thicker and decorated with papyrus. In the picture, you can see how the attendant near the brazier throws coals, and the flame takes off rapidly. Such scenes gave an idea of the bustling life in the palace, where everyone was busy with their own stuff. The relief is made of sandstone. The same material was used in the buildings of Pharaoh Akhenaten. New ecosystem under the seabed. With the help of an underwater robot, a team of scientists from around the world, including Dr. Monica Bright, has discovered a stunning ecosystem in volcanic cavities. And yes, this is in a place where the temperature can reach to up to 368 degrees. We used to think that there could be no life there. Among the dark waters and hot springs, scientists have found a world inhabited by colorful worms, shellfish, crabs, and even bacteria that instead of sunlight, feed on minerals. Incredible, right? And the most interesting thing is that some of these creatures, like the giant worms Riftia pachyptila, travel through the seabed exploring new corners of their underwater home. However, researchers warn that our curiosity and desire for prey may endanger this unique world. It is important for us to respect the mysterious creatures in the depth of the ocean. Vampires in Poland. The remains of a 17th century child have been found at an archaeological site in Poland with a lock on his leg. The researchers think that the locals were afraid that this child might come to life like a vampire. In the Middle Ages in Europe, many believed in vampires and used various methods to keep the dead in the grave. Recently, archaeologists including Dariusz Polinsky of the Nicholas Copernicus University discovered an unusual burial near Dąbrowa-Czelmińska in Poland. It was a woman with a lock on her leg and a sickle around her neck. And here is a new discovery: a vampire. The child was only 5 or 7 years old when he passed away. He was buried face down as if his activities were feared even in death. In the Middle Ages, such burials were made so that the deceased bite the ground and did not threaten people. And nearby, they found a cluster of skeletons of other children and a fragment of a jaw with a green tint. Most likely, a copper object was placed in the mouth of the deceased, hence this color. Cemetery for the poor. Have you ever heard of mysterious underground finds accidentally discovered by builders? So, right under the streets of the ancient city of Lübeck, known for its charitable traditions, a cemetery was discovered, and not a regular one. This sleeping city has been in use for over 200 years. This cemetery belonged to a shelter where people in need were helped. In the Middle Ages, during the time of knights and castles, the inhabitants of Lübeck took care of the poor, sick, and homeless. And although historians knew about the existence of this cemetery, its exact location was a mystery until today. The researchers were shocked to learn how many people found their last rest here. The remains of 200 people, including children, have already been removed from the ground. This is just the beginning. Many of those buried here were not just ordinary citizens. Among them were city officials, teachers, doctors. Some of them were even buried in expensive coffins. One of the most intriguing finds is the remains of a man with a bullet hole in his skull. In the Bronze Age, they traded cities. The noisy earthquake in Turkey in 2023 brought not only destruction, but also discovery. In Kahramanmaraş, where everything happened, there was an ancient mound of Tel Atchin. There once was the city of Alalak, a real center of the Bronze Age. Alalak was found in the 2nd millennium BC. It was part of the Amhad, the gigantic empire of that era. Palaces stood there as early as 2000 BC. Immediately, the mysterious Yaram Lim come across our eyes. Who is he? Brother? Son? This question has plagued scholars for a long time, until recent findings point to his fraternal relationship with the ruler of Yamhad. And so, after the earthquake, archaeologists discovered a clay tablet. It's got cuneiform on it. It was an agreement on the sale of an entire city. And what is most interesting, the buyer was our Yaram Lim guy. It looks like an old receipt from a store that hasn't been opened yet. For a long time, it was thought that cities were donated or exchanged, but not sold. This plate changes everything. Ancient animal battle. 125 million years ago, the ancient world is inhabited by dinosaurs. And now, archaeologists discovered the incredible, the remains of a dinosaur and a mammal frozen in battle. The first participant in this ancient battle is Psittacosaurus, a dinosaur the size of a modern dog. The second is Repenomimus, an ancestor resembling a badger, but this is not a cute forest dweller. Despite its small size, it was one of the largest mammals of its time. Scientists are sure that Repenomimus attacked a real dinosaur. Mammals used to be thought to be afraid of dinosaurs, but this find is game-changing. The scene of this ancient find was discovered in China, and the remains were preserved thanks to a volcanic eruption that froze this spectacle for millions of years. Ancient marble disc. The underwater world of the Mediterranean Sea hides not only colorful fish, but also the secrets of ancient civilizations. Israeli diver David Shalom made an incredible discovery off Palmakin Beach. He found a 2,400-year-old marble disc at the bottom of the sea. There are only 4 such discs in the whole world. Ancient ships were decorated with such discs, which served not only as decoration, but also as protection from the evil eye. These sea amulets looked like eyes, helping sailors navigate the water and warn of possible dangers. This disc has a diameter of 20 centimeters, one side is flat and the other is convex, and most importantly, traces of paint are still preserved on it. Homeland of Plantation slavery. At the end of the 15th century, the Portuguese began to populate the island of São Tomé, which is located 240 kilometers from Gabon. Wood, clean water, and fertile soil for sugarcane, all this made the island an ideal place for colonization. But São Tomé was not as harmless as it might seem. Dangerous malaria has turned the island into a real trap. And what did they decide to do, you may ask? Relocate here prisoners, Jews and slaves from Africa. It was they who created the first plantation economy in the tropics, where the entire process from growing cane to building mills was built on slave labor. By 1530, this cozy island became the main sugar producer for Europe, even overtaking the famous Madeira. Among the archaeological finds on the island is the Praia Malau sugar factory, an old building with the unique 16th century architecture. On the first floor, there were living quarters, and on the second, industrial premises where sugar was cooked. However, as in many stories, there were difficulties. Due to humidity, rapidly growing forests, and slave uprisings, sugar production ran into problems. As a result, the Portuguese moved to Brazil, taking with them the foundations of their sugar business. Today, scientists continue to study São Tomé, looking for traces of old factories and slave dwellings in order to learn more about life on the island and preserve its unique cultural heritage. Egypt rewrites history. Archaeologists in Egypt have stumbled upon something absolutely amazing. In Hierakonpolis, an ancient city on the banks of the Nile, which was the cultural center of Egypt before the pyramids, a cemetery was discovered, but not an ordinary one. Dr. Renée Friedman and her team waited for the usual excavation, but what they found made them gasp in surprise. In the tombs, along with human remains, lay unexpected guests: baboons, wild cats, and even hippos. These animals are not usually found in Egypt. The most amazing thing is that all these animals were well-groomed. They received treatment, food, and even lived in captivity for a long time. According to Friedman, it could be the world's first zoo exhibit. These animals were symbols of power and might, demonstrations of wealth and control over wildlife. This zoo is one of the most amazing discoveries in Egypt. Imagine how these ancient Egyptians took care of their wild pets, using them in religious rituals and demonstrating their power. Slave quarters. Archaeologists in Italy have discovered a room in an old villa near Pompeii. Apparently, slaves lived there. Inside, they found 2 beds, but only one with a mattress, as well as all sorts of gizmos and the remains of rodents. To think, even slaves didn't have bars or locks. This suggests that the slaves were kept under control not so much by chains, but through a system of slavery. The villa where the room was found is near Pompeii, a city that was buried under ash from the eruption of Mount Vesuvius 2,000 years ago. The entire city and its inhabitants were buried, and their houses, belongings, and stories were preserved under a layer of ash. The oldest drawings of Neanderthals. In the cave of La Roche-Cotard in France, 57,000 years ago, Neanderthals created real art. Inside the cave, amazing drawings were found, made simply with fingers. Dots, lines, spots, no matter how you interpret them, this is the art of ancient people. Researchers at the University of Tours, led by Jean-Claude Marquet, have recreated these drawings in 3D and analyzed the layers of the cave. But the most interesting thing is the fact that this cave was closed about 57 years ago, and this means that modern man has not yet inhabited this area. Thus, only Neanderthals could be the authors of these drawings, which are possibly 75,000 years old. Today we know much more about Neanderthals and their complex culture. These drawings are real proof that they were far from being as primitive as we thought before. Ceramic drainage system. 4,000 years ago, the rains in China were so strong that up to 50 centimeters of water could fall in a month. But the Chinese of that time did not sit idly by. They built an awesome drainage system to fight this water madness. Each house in Pingliantai village has its own mini ditch, and these grooves were there for a reason. They ensured the safety of every inhabitant from the water element, and in the squares and in public places, giant ditches were laid, which were connected to ceramic pipes. These pipes, like a puzzle, were assembled from separate sections and directed water away from the settlement, and most importantly, these antique pipes are still in great shape. Statue of Hecate. In a mysterious corner of Turkey in the city of Kalanderes, archaeologists have made an incredible discovery. Hidden under the layers of earth was a 3-headed statue of the goddess Hecate, and next to it was ancient pottery like the pages of a lost diary of past times. Since 1987, researchers have been trying to unravel the secrets of Kalanderes, and it seemed that this year they succeeded. The main treasure of the expedition is a unique statue of Hecate. These 3-headed figurines were placed at crossroads serving as symbols of borders. Hecate is a real mystery of antiquity, the goddess of magic, the lord of the night, and the patroness of crossroads. Dr. Aydin, who leads this expedition, emphasized the deep connection between Kalanderes and another ancient city of Lagina. Gothic Cemetery with jewels. In Poland, in a quiet corner of a natural park, archaeologists have discovered a real historical treasure, a 2,000-year-old Gothic cemetery. It was there that people from the tribe of the Goths were buried, key actors in the events that led to the end of the Western Roman Empire and the beginning of a new era, medieval Europe. The archaeologist Olaf Popkevich was the first to stumble upon this place near the village of Stara Żaka. Immediately after that, scientists rushed to study the area of 250 square meters and found as many as 50 graves. The Goths are ancient Germanic tribes that left a huge mark on the history of Europe. During the excavations, archaeologists discovered amazing items, shiny silver necklaces, jewelry with snake motifs, and even an entire urn. Scientists believe that this is just the tip of the iceberg. DNA from the time capsule. Scientists recently pulled DNA from a clay brick that is 2,900 years old. The brick is directly from the palace of King Ashurnasirpal II in the ancient city of Kalho in modern-day Iraq. They found 34 groups of plants, including birch and cabbage. This brick has become a real biodiversity time capsule. It is important to note that the brick was made from clay, straw, and from animal excrement, and it was never burned, thanks to which the DNA was preserved. Now this unique brick is stored in the National Museum of Denmark. The new techniques being used on the brick are opening the door to being able to study the DNA of animals and insects in the same way. Clay materials are found in almost every archaeological site, which makes them a gold mine for research, and the best source of valuable and interesting information about the ancient world is our channel, so subscribe and write kind comments under the video, which I will definitely answer. Thanks for your views, bye everyone!